The morning began like any other at the Kelly Clarkson Show, crew members hustling across the bright stage, producers checking lighting angles, audience coordinators ushering in eager fans. But something in the air felt different. There was a buzz, an anticipation, that went beyond the usual excitement. Kelly Clarkson herself seemed especially lively, rehearsing her intro with that familiar Texan charm and a mischievous grin. The reason? Her guest that day was none other than Trisha Yearwood, one of country music's most respected and beloved icons. When the cameras rolled and Kelly stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted in applause. "Y'all, I am so excited about today," Kelly announced, her voice carrying that magnetic enthusiasm. "She's a legend, she's a Grammy winner, and she makes one mean peach cobbler. Please welcome the amazing Trisha Yearwood." Trisha walked out with her signature poise, shoulders back, smile flawless, and a sparkle of confidence that only decades in the spotlight could shape. She and Kelly hugged warmly, the audience cheering louder. At first glance, it looked like two Southern sisters catching up over sweet tea. The conversation started light and fun. They talked about Trisha's cooking show, her long marriage to Garth Brooks, and her upcoming album celebrating classic country influences. Kelly, always the curious interviewer, leaned in and asked, "So, Trisha, this new album, it sounds like you're really going back to your roots, huh?" Trisha smiled. "Oh, absolutely. It's a love letter to the music that raised me. I think sometimes people forget that country isn't just a sound, it's a story. It's heart, and it's truth." The audience nodded approvingly, but Kelly, ever the modern voice, tilted her head thoughtfully. "I totally get that," she replied. "But don't you think country music has to keep moving forward, too? Like, I grew up on that sound, but I love seeing new artists mix in pop and R&B. It makes it more accessible, more inclusive, you know." Trisha laughed softly, though the glint in her eyes shifted. "Oh, I'm all for new sounds, honey. But there's a difference between growing and forgetting where you came from." A light ripple of tension moved through the crowd. Kelly chuckled, sensing the energy change but leaning into it. "For sure, I just mean, like, artists today, Casey, Morgan, even me, we're experimenting. Country's not just about trucks and heartbreak anymore. It's bigger." Trisha crossed her legs and rested her hands calmly on her knee, her expression gracious but pointed. "Well, I think country's always been big, Kelly. The stories might sound different, but the soul stays the same. The problem is when people stop recognizing the soul part." The audience murmured. Some clapped softly, others looked between them, realizing this wasn't just a playful chat anymore, it was a generational collision, a philosophical standoff wrapped in Southern charm. Kelly tried to keep it light. "No, I totally get that," she said, laughing a little too brightly. "I just think if we keep repeating the same formula, broken hearts, small towns, whiskey, people get bored. We've got to give 'em something new to feel." Trisha leaned forward slightly, the warmth in her smile cooling. "Sweetheart, people don't get bored of honesty. They get bored of fake." The room went still. Even Kelly blinked, caught off guard. The band members shifted nervously behind the scenes. Kelly, never one to back down, replied, I don't think new necessarily means fake. It just means, evolved. Like, if Dolly Parton had stayed the same, we'd never have, 9 to 5 feeder, Jolene. She grew, and that's why she's timeless." Trisha's gaze sharpened, though her tone stayed even. "Dolly never abandoned country, though. She brought people to it. That's the difference. You can open the door wider without tearing down the house." A few audience members clapped. Kelly nodded, but her smile was tight now. "That's fair," she said. "But some people would say the house you're talking about has walls that kept a lot of artists out for too long." Trisha inhaled slowly. "And some people," she said softly, "forget who built it in the first place." The air felt thick. Kelly looked momentarily speechless, trying to steer the conversation away from the growing tension. "All right," she said with a forced chuckle, "you're not gonna let me off easy, are you?" Trisha's eyes twinkled, though her voice stayed firm. "Not when it comes to something I love this much." The audience laughed nervously, unsure whether to clap or hold their breath. Kelly tried to pivot. Okay, let's lighten it up, how about a little game? We'll play Name That Tune with classic and modern country hits." But Trisha didn't smile this time. She leaned back slightly, her jaw set. "You know, Kelly, I came here to talk about music, not to prove what I know about it." That line landed like a thunderbolt. Kelly blinked, thrown off. "Trisha, it's just a fun segment." "I know," Trisha interrupted, her tone still polite but edged. But maybe it's not so fun when it feels like you're being tested for defending what you believe in. A hush spread through the audience. Kelly looked visibly rattled now, realizing she'd pushed a little too far. That's not what I meant at all, she said quickly. I have so much respect for you, and I love what you've done for country music. Trisha nodded slowly, rising from her chair. Then maybe let's keep it at that. Kelly blinked. Wait, what are you doing? Trisha unclipped her microphone, offering a polite, practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. I think we've said enough for today. The crowd gasped. Kelly stood up, stunned. Trisha, come on, don't do this. We're just talking. Trisha paused halfway off the stage, looking back. Her voice was calm, but every word cut through the silence. Talking's fine, Kelly, but some conversations don't belong under bright lights. With that, she turned and walked off stage, her heels echoing against the polished floor. The band froze. The producers waved frantically, trying to cut to commercial. The audience sat in stunned silence, half in disbelief, half in awe. Kelly stood there alone, microphone still in hand, trying to process what had just happened. She laughed awkwardly, glancing toward the cameras. Well, guess we're talking, a quick break, y'all. The applause sign flickered, but only a few claps followed. The show cut to commercial, leaving behind a moment that would soon explode online. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, whispers were already rippling through the studio halls. Staff members traded glances. Some looked shocked, others secretly thrilled. They all knew they'd just witnessed TV history. Kelly sat back down, exhaling deeply as her crew rushed around her. Did that just happen? She murmured. It had, and within minutes, the clip of Trisha Yearwood's graceful but fiery exit would start circulating on social media, millions watching, debating, taking sides. But for now, in the quiet aftermath of that charged moment, the only sound that lingered in the studio was the faint echo of Trisha's heels, walking away, unbothered, unbroken, and entirely herself. The silence backstage was thick, almost humming with tension. Crew members exchanged nervous looks as Trisha Yearwood sat in her dressing room, her posture composed yet her eyes distant. The scent of coffee and hairspray filled the small space, mingling with the low murmur of producers trying to figure out how to manage the fallout. Trisha's assistant, a young woman named Carol, stood by the door, holding a bottle of water and looking hesitant. Trisha, are you sure you don't want to go back out there? She asked softly. Trisha took a long breath, setting her phone aside. No, Carol, I've said what I needed to say. I'm not here to trade punches for ratings. Her tone was steady, but her voice carried the faint tremor of exhaustion, the kind that only comes after years of defending what you love to people who think they know it better. Meanwhile, down the hall, Kelly Clarkson was still on stage, trying to recover. The commercial break had ended, and she was now smiling through the strain. Well, folks, she said to the audience, her charm still intact but her eyes betraying the unease. Sometimes good conversations get a little too real. But that's why we love live TV, right? A smattering of applause followed. Kelly's laughter sounded light, but deep down, she felt rattled. She'd admired Trisha for years, had even covered her songs on tour. She'd wanted an honest conversation about country music's evolution, not a confrontation that would end in a walk-off. When the show wrapped, Kelly quickly exited the stage, the bright lights giving way to the dim corridor backstage. She ran a hand through her hair, sighing as her producer, Gina, caught up with her. She's still in her room, Gina said quietly. You want me to go talk to her? Kelly shook her head. No, I'll do it. As Kelly walked toward Trisha's dressing room, she could already hear the faint chatter of assistants and stagehands whispering about what happened. Every few steps, someone would glance up from their phone. Twitter notifications were already flooding in. Clips from the show, barely an hour old, were being shared with captions like, Trisha Yearwood storms off after clash with Kelly Clarkson. And, country queens collide on live TV. The moment had gone viral before either woman could even process it. Kelly paused outside the door, took a deep breath, and knocked gently. Come in, Trisha called, her voice calm. Kelly stepped inside. The room felt quieter than the rest of the buzzing studio. Trisha sat at the vanity, still in her stage outfit, a sleek navy blouse and silver jewelry that shimmered under the mirror lights. She looked up, meeting Kelly's reflection rather than her eyes. Hey, Kelly said softly. Hey, Trisha replied, her tone neutral. Kelly hesitated. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make things tense out there. You know I have a big mouth sometimes. She laughed lightly, trying to ease the mood, but Trisha didn't respond right away. Finally, Trisha turned around. You didn't offend me, Kelly. You just hit a nerve. There's a difference. Kelly nodded slowly. I get that. I guess I just wanted to talk about how country's changing. I wasn't trying to say it's better or worse, just different. Trisha softened slightly. I know that, and you're right, things are changing. But sometimes, it feels like people want to rewrite what country is, like it's not good enough anymore unless it sounds like something else. Kelly crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. But that's what I love about you, Trisha. You're one of the reasons I even love country music. I just think, we all add something new to it. That's not disrespect, it's evolution. Trisha smiled faintly. Maybe so, but evolution shouldn't mean erasure. The two women shared a quiet moment, both aware that their disagreement wasn't just about music, it was about legacy, identity, and what it meant to hold on to something that defined you. Just then, Carol poked her head in. Sorry, ladies, but TMZ is already running the clip. Kelly groaned, burying her face in her hands. Of course they are. Trisha chuckled softly, shaking her head. Let them. People love drama more than they love truth. Kelly looked up. Well, maybe we can give them both. That earned a genuine laugh from Trisha, the first one since the argument. Now that's a country line if I ever heard one. A few hours later, both women's phones were blowing up. The internet was ablaze with opinions. Hashtags like hashtag Trisha Yearwood walks off and hashtag Kelly vs Trisha were trending worldwide. Some fans sided fiercely with Trisha, defending her as the keeper of country's soul. Others supported Kelly, praising her for pushing boundaries. Country radio hosts were debating it live. Morning talk shows replayed the clip. Even Garth Brooks, Trisha's husband, was reportedly asked for a comment as he arrived at a Nashville studio. Trisha, however, stayed quiet. She sat in her hotel room that evening, scrolling through the flood of tweets. Some were kind, others not so much. She put the phone down, sighed, and looked out the window at the glittering Los Angeles skyline. They'll make it a fight, she murmured, when it was just a conversation. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Kelly. Greater than, hey, I meant what I said, I really respect you. I'd love to make this right. Maybe we can sing together sometime instead of arguing. Trisha smiled softly. She stared at the message for a moment before typing back. Greater than, maybe that's the smartest thing you've said all day, girl. By morning, that line had already found its way to the press. Kelly mentioned it in a follow-up interview, laughing about the tension and expressing her admiration for Trisha. Look, she told Entertainment Tonight, Trisha Yearwood is a powerhouse. She cares deeply about country music, and honestly, I get it. We're just from two different eras, but the same heart. Trisha also broke her silence during a brief Instagram live session. Sitting in her kitchen with a mug of tea, she addressed the controversy with grace. Kelly and I had a spirited conversation, she said, smiling. That's what happens when two passionate women talk about something they love. No hard feelings, y'all. We'll probably end up singing about it before the year's out. That moment shifted everything. Fans who had been divided began celebrating the possibility of a collaboration. Memes turned into mashups, with users online editing clips of the walk-off into remixes titled, The Country Clash Duet. Within days, both women's teams were quietly discussing a joint performance, something to turn the media firestorm into a statement of unity. A few weeks later, at the CMA Awards in Nashville, Kelly Clarkson and Trisha Yearwood shocked everyone by appearing together on stage. The audience rose to its feet as they performed a soulful rendition of Trisha's classic, How Do I Live, blending it seamlessly into Kelly's, Because of You. As the final note rang out, the two women clasped hands, smiling at each other, not as rivals, but as artists who understood that music, like the people who make it, only grows stronger through its clashes. Backstage, Kelly laughed and said, Guess we finally gave them their duet. Trisha winked. Told you, sparks make the best songs. And just like that, what had begun as a heated walk-off turned into one of the most talked-about reconciliations in modern country music, a reminder that passion, when paired with respect, doesn't just divide. It creates harmony.